All right, another thing that's been happening this week. What did it happen this week? When the heck did we leave for Oregon? Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
it happened.
Saturday,
It
a
happened.
week ago
It
today.
happened Friday. It's grub beating time, and we released the attack nematodes, also called beneficial nematodes, but they're attack
I kind of
nematodes.
like the attack. nematodes.
In our garden at the Waterford Library, we have weevil problems in one bed. Notch, and this is a little bit of notching on a plumbago at a client's garden.
That's
That
just
garden,
a little bit.
I didn't take a picture of it, or didn't take a good enough picture of it at the library, but that bed is devastated. About everything has notches on it. And these are not the notches, these are not the nice concentric circles that leafcutter bees take out of the edges. Those are beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like somebody took a hole punch and punched the edge and got almost a complete circle out of the edge. These are those ragged, we continue the hole that we made last night, weevil holes. Uh-oh, what happened to the picture? Okay, there's another picture coming up here someplace. It is the time of year when places like Arbico, where we buy most of our stuff like this, and Gardens Alive and other beneficial biological pest control companies put beneficial nematodes on sale, because now is the time to use them. And there are lots of different nematodes that you can add to your soil that will attack grubs. And now is the time to do it. Nematodes are a class of organism. Roundworms, it's terrible to pick up one like this, because roundworms is a parasite that infects people and dogs and whatever. Roundworms is a nematode, but there's a huge class. There's tens of thousands of types of nematodes, and some of them are predatory on grubs. You put them in the soil, they swim around in the soil moisture, find a grub, and penetrate the body, eat the insides out, and leave for the next body. And that's the kind of thing you want going on in the garden. So there are lots of different kinds at Arbico. They've got a whole catalog of different kinds of grubs that you can read through. So the beneficial nematodes are naturally occurring microscopic organisms found in soils throughout the world. They mainly parasitize insect pests that have soil-dwelling larval or pupal stages. And there we go. So the pest that does the notching is the weevil on the bottom.
This guy.
The non-flying, crunchy weevils that you might sometimes find emerging inside your house once in a while.
But the real damage is done by
the grubs eating the roots. Now that grub I put on the penny there, or that Stephen somehow managed to get onto the penny so we could show you the size, that is a nearly full-grown weevil grub in the spring. It is very difficult to kill that guy. He's got a thick skin. He's full of life. Even if he gets invaded by a nematode, the nematode might not be able to kill it before it manages to become a weevil. So the time to kill grubs, including the grubs that people are upset with in their lawn, like Japanese beetles, the time to kill them is when they're hatching out in the late summer and fall.
Their weakest time.
Yeah, so now is the time to release the attack nematodes. And if you're looking through a biological pest control company's catalog, you'll find things like this that Arbico has that says, click me off what pests you're looking at. And if you look down the list, you'll see black vine weevil there in the bees.
Oops.
Black vine weevil is in the bees there. Black vine weevil. One more down, Stephen, one more down.
There it is.
Black vine weevil can be controlled by SC nematodes, which are Stenoderma cap. That's the botanical name, the scientific name. SR nematodes, HB nematodes, or SK nematodes. And then they explain for you which of their products have those in them, because some of them are combinations of different nematodes.
You can see over here,
a couple of different things.
SFS HB combo.
So I ordered SC nematodes for the library. I ordered 5 million of them, because 5 million is enough for, go down to the bottom, Stephen, 1,600 square feet. I only had 200 square feet to deal with. And they come in a box of powder, and you feel like, I always feel like Peter Pan. I'm scattering powder around, except you mix the powder in water and spray it on and wet it on real well, or you sprinkle it on and wet it in really well, because these nematodes live in the soil moisture and they need soil moisture to move around.
We had and it came really quick. Did you have a special delivery? Or is
I
that just how they do it?
I did have it specially delivered. I think
Okay.
we paid $10 extra to get it right away, because by the time I realized, oh, I gotta get those nematodes on before we go to Oregon, I wanted to make sure I got them in time.
Yep.
And then I explained to the library director, could you have one of the librarians come out here and wet this garden down every day, keep it wet for a week or more, so that I make sure those beneficial nematodes move around. So now's the time to do nematodes. And there are both good
Bad.
nematodes and bad nematodes.
Just like anything.
And there will be an article on gardenataz.org about this, because I looked up and realized we hadn't written about this
And
before.
she will be writing on it.
When people ask us, well, I've been told to cut the garden down in the fall because we have to control diseases and insects. Should I do that? We often say to people, there's good stuff out there too. You don't have to cut everything down. But you do want to watch for things like this on Japanese anemone. They're blooming right now. And why does the leaf look like that? If you have a question that the leaf doesn't look right, that leaf on the Japanese anemone, and this can happen to a number of other plants, tall phloxes, asters. This has been invaded by leaf and stem nematodes. They get in at the base, they migrate up the stems and into the leaf. They make this kind of pattern bound by the veins. Generally, you can see the pattern is like a mosaic within the veins. And they're going to stay in the leaf that falls to the ground and reinfect the plant the next year. And they do weaken the plant. And it's a good idea when you see stuff like this, that goes into the hot compost. That goes into the yard waste going to a hot compost facility, or it goes into your hot compost, or it gets buried 18 inches deep so that it gets smothered. But you want to not have leaf and stem nematodes spreading around through your garden. So when you look and you're cutting down your Japanese anemone, or you are cutting for cut flowers, and you see that kind of leaf, that's the kind of plant to say, oh, you know what, this year I think I'm going to not leave this in the garden.
Take it out.
There are also root soil dwelling nematodes. This is root knot nematode, or almost certainly root knot nematode. It could be a fungal mycelium, but our nematode expert, who is checking with other nematode experts, it looks not like root knot, and it looks like styrofoam beads, doesn't it? But it's white roots with enlargements on them. I think I have a close-up there. Yeah. It's actually, these are nematodes that have invaded the root, are feeding within the root, and cause the root to form these distortions. Like an oyster gets a pearl inside of it from an irritation, and they weaken the plant. I found these all over the roots of the root ball of a peony when I dug it up and then rinsed it off to divide it. I went, uh-oh, this is not good. And it weakens the plant. They remain in the soil. They live there from year to year. You don't want to have this happening. I suspect, and this is entirely my suspicion, I've never read this in a book anyplace, but this area next to the garage was for over 20 years sprayed repeatedly, excessively, with a home defense insecticide. Because they didn't want to have bugs in their garage. I said, you really don't need to do that unless you have bugs. And the peonies were growing right next to it. And I suspect that you'll get more root knot nematodes in over-treated, abused soils than any place else. And what you want is a balanced kind of life in your soil, not a lot of a killing going on if you can help it. It's gotten to where when I see distorted looking roots, when I dig something up, these arthritic looking roots from a hydrangea that I looked at in a client's garden. Oh man, this is one of the reasons that you look at something and say, maybe I shouldn't be growing this plant, or maybe I should be doing something different in the soil to increase the microbial life so that I've got more variety of things and less attack of plants going on. And that's what today is all about. So what questions have we got about any of these things, or about any of your topics, before we move on to our main topic of soil today?
Yeah, we've got some good nematode questions. So Stacy is curious about something for snails. Would this work for snails? What would be your snail recommendation?
I have never looked up
I've
whether
never
looked
heard
for
that there's snail nematodes.
There probably are.
Yeah.
There's a nematode for everything, just like there's a virus for everything for us. But it's worth looking, if you wanted to look at the same place where we look at arbico.com, ARBICO, ARBICO,
Don't ask
arbico.com,
me.
and look in their chart and do a search on their field for snails. I know that there are they fungus or bacteria? There's either a fungus or a bacteria that is registered in Canada and England to put onto snails, and I think it was not registered in the
Here.
US, so you
Yeah.
like go across the Windsor to buy it. It's
Be careful what you're telling people to do.
Yeah, but there are biological controls. Better than using what is a snail, a mollusk. Better than using a molluscicide. Somebody was using a molluscicide at this house before we moved in.
They used a lot of stuff.
They used a lot of stuff. All around the foundation of the house, we found piles of dead snails, of snail shells. It was terrifying to me. No reason to do that. No reason to do that unless you know you have a problem.
And you're killing everything.
Yeah. So if you have snails or slugs, yes, there are some things that you can use that are biological controls. Look them up on a biological control site.
Well, I've linked down there in Arbico. I did their search by pest, and they have a slugs and snails page. I'm not seeing, I don't think I see any actual nematodes, but they've got a bunch of products there. Okay, fantastic. Diane is curious, and I guess this could be answered in a similar way. You could use the search function on Arbico, but she's looking for what kind of beneficial nematodes would you put out for black fine weevil or pale green weevil, which I also have on my cherry witch hazel and fothergilla.
I don't know offhand. I go to biological control companies' site. They keep track of all that stuff, and there are so many of them. There's heterobacteritis nematodes, and there's Stenoderma nematode. I mean, there's just all kinds of nematodes.
You could step into one of those wells that never stop and trying to figure out which nematode for which thing.
This is why it's great to know people who I can send things to and say, hey, okay, Cheryl. Cheryl's got a degree in biological controls, and say, help me out here. And even she could say, I think that is. So I'm sorry, I can't answer that one directly.
That's right. Arbico has a weevil site. They've got alfalfa, black vine, carrot, pecan, root, and strawberry root weevils that they all sort of talk about and refer to.
Boy, those pecan and strawberry root weevils are pretty important to control.
Yeah, well, pales green.
Those sound southern, don't they? We got pecan weevils.
They do. Get off the sweet tea.
The Michelle says, if I ordered today and it took a week to get the nematodes, would it be in time?
It would be in time. August and September. In the fall is the time. Yeah, early fall is the time to do it. The eggs were laid in July and August, and were hatching out in early August and throughout August. And now is the time to get them. They eat all when, if the ground is above 50 degrees, they're eating. It's one of the reasons that these weevils show up inside people's houses, is because your foundation of your house is keeping the soil warmer. They develop earlier and they emerge and come inside the house.
Okay. And then Mary Lou is asking, and you probably said this and maybe I missed it too. How often do you apply the nematodes?
I don't apply them all.
It's like any chemical. Think about it a little bit first.
Look and see what results are. Do you have less damage the next year? Say, okay, that seems to have worked. I know that in one of the places where the nematodes against the black vine weevil were tested was in the Netherlands, where they have heavily cropped bulb fields and agricultural fields. And they're going to use them all the time. They're going to keep restocking their fields because they fumigate the fields, which kills everything, and then they've got to re-add everything. I'm going to add only as often as it looks like I need to add them, and that's the best that I can tell you.
Okay, and I think that is what we have for the buggy section.
Okay. All right, well then we'll move on from the buggy section to the dirty section.
To the dirt.
Yeah, let's get dirt. Let's get down and dirty.
Get down and dirty.
Okay, thank you all for being here in our garden today, and that's it for the things that popped up right away. Now we'll move on to what we scheduled to talk about.